Officer Joseph Puglia was en route to the police station when an unexpected jolt shook him to the core. Here was a seasoned professional, trained to navigate all manner of crises, yet what unfolded before him elicited an uncharacteristic visceral scream. The incident transpired as he traversed the bustling interstate. Abruptly, a short distance ahead, a dog darted onto the road and collided with an oncoming vehicle. Callously, the car pressed onward, leaving the dog's lifeless form sprawled across the asphalt. Without hesitation, Officer Puglia swerved his patrol car in front of the wounded canine, effectively barricading the busy highway lane and halting traffic to avert a potentially grim fate for the forsaken pup. His dashboard camera was already recording, capturing every moment of the unfolding drama. He hurried over to assess the dog's condition, kneeling beside the injured creature and meticulously checking for any flicker of vitality. The dog lay motionless, a disheartening sight that weighed heavily on Officer Puglia's conscience. Despite his swift intervention, it seemed he might have arrived too late. Just as he contemplated returning to his vehicle, contemplating the possibility of failure, a glimmer of life beckoned his attention. The dog's breaths remained shallow, and the pup was drenched in blood. The source and extent of the injuries were unclear. The dog's prospects were grim, leaving it on the road spelled certain doom. Time was of the essence, and Officer Puglia needed to act swiftly to save the pup's life. He rushed back to his patrol car, retrieving an emergency blanket. Moving the injured dog would require great care. The last thing Officer Puglia wanted was to exacerbate its injuries. Even handling the dog with bare hands could cause harm. Instead, he enveloped the dog in the emergency blanket, cradling it with utmost gentleness. He carefully placed the pup inside his vehicle. It was perhaps the most tender handling of a passenger the police vehicle had ever witnessed. Without a moment to lose, Officer Puglia sped away, immediately alerting the communication department through his radio about the accident and seeking their assistance. Given his unfamiliarity with the area and local veterinary services, locating a nearby veterinarian posed a formidable challenge. Luckily, they could direct him to the Pinellas Animal Hospital, and they went even further. They contacted the animal hospital and let them know that he was coming. The entire team handled this situation exactly as they would if he were driving a human victim to the hospital. They just hoped that he would be on time. When he got to the animal hospital, they were waiting for him, and they took the dog to the operating room right away. Despite his strong inclination to stay with the dog, the officer was bound by his responsibilities and the possibility of helping other people. He reluctantly had to resume his duties, leaving the dog in capable hands. With a heavy heart, he turned away and made his way back to his job. Before he left the hospital, they asked what he wanted to call the dog while they were searching for his family. The cop thought of the pup and how he was still alive even after being run over. If he didn't get help straight away, he wouldn't have made it either, and it was way more likely that another car would have run him over too. It was a fluke that Officer Puglia was right there when the dog needed him. If you consider everything, he was a really lucky little dog, and that was why they decided to name him Lucky. They just hoped that the luck he had had so far would last long enough to get him healthy. Officer Puglia went on his way to serve and protect his tiny piece of Florida. But as soon as his shift was over, he went straight back to the animal hospital, and he was shocked by what he saw there. The dog was sitting up, and his tail wagged as soon as he saw his rescuer. Officer Puglia was overjoyed. He thought the black and tan dog would be a goner, but now he was doing well. He had a few cuts and bruises, but for the most part, he lived up to his name. He was really lucky. It was wonderful. But another challenge remained. Where would this dog go when he was healed up? They had to find his family, or the pup would have to go to a shelter. After all he had been through, would he have to spend the rest of his days in a small enclosure? He wasn't too thin, so it seemed likely that he had a family out there somewhere. They wanted to find them and get Lucky home, but it wasn't going to be that easy. The dog didn't have a tag or collar. When Officer Puglia found him, the animal hospital also couldn't find a microchip on the dog. It looked like Lucky's luck had run out. His only hope was that the family would come forward. But until then, he would need somewhere to go. The officer had gone to visit him every day, but when he got to the animal hospital a few days later, he got yet another surprise. They had released the dog from the hospital, and a local shelter had picked him up. Lucky went to his new home at the shelter. Animal Services had taken custody of Lucky, and now they would only give him back to his family or to someone who would adopt him. It was like he was a ward of the state. It was kind of sad, but they wanted what was best for him. They spread the story far and wide in their quest to locate Lucky's family. Then, an astonishing turn of events occurred. A family came forward, asserting ownership of Lucky. They claimed to have had the dog for a while and presented a few pictures as evidence. It turned out Lucky had escaped their yard during a series of deliveries. When they arrived to reclaim him, Lucky, though initially shy, appeared content to be reunited with them, promising a seemingly perfect happy ending. Yet, an unsettling feeling nagged at the shelter official who had released Lucky. Something about the story struck her as too flawless. Her intuition proved correct. There was an underlying mystery that demanded unraveling, as the consequences for the puppy hung in the balance. The shelter official made multiple attempts to schedule home visits, standard procedure for this particular shelter, whether for adoptions or owner retrievals, to ensure the animal's well-being. Regrettably, the family's busy schedule thwarted these efforts. Instead, they provided the official with a social media account where she could monitor their adventures with Lucky. They retained the dog's name and continued addressing him as such. Their social media pages gained popularity, with numerous followers eager for updates on Lucky's well-being. The shelter official grew suspicious as she examined the overly picturesque photos. Though she considered it might be paranoia, she decided to investigate further. Upon arriving at the given address, the scene bore no resemblance to Lucky's online portrayal. The expansive yard in the images had shrunk to a mere patch, and to her dismay, she spotted Lucky outdoors, contradicting the indoor living conditions claimed. Tethered with a chain and deprived of shade, food, and water, it was a distressing sight she couldn't ignore. The official took immediate action, rescuing Lucky and initiating an inquiry. What unfolded was astonishing. The family had deceitfully edited the social media photos, pretending to own Lucky when they never had. Their motive was to exploit him for likes and endorsements, revealing their unsuitability as pet owners. They were hit with a substantial fine for their deception. Lucky, once again without a home, was in for a heartwarming twist. Officer Puglia, who had initially saved Lucky, had formed a deep bond with the dog. When the shelter doors opened, Lucky's joy knew no bounds as he recognized his rescuer. His hero, Officer Puglia, had returned to give him a forever home. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you liked this animal rescue story. Please give it a thumbs up and consider to share it with your loved ones. Thank you.